Hello there. Had the UK voted to remain in the EU last year, would we be talking about a second referendum right now? Imagine if the Remain side had won last year's EU referendum. Would we now be talking of a second referendum just in case people had changed their minds? Jeremy Corbyn would be the newcomer, but with Remainer David Cameron still in post. With Westminster packed to the gunwales with Remainers, there would have been grand speeches about engaging more with the EU and continued ever closer union. The people have decided, they would have said, and the likes of Heseltine, Blair and Clarke would be calling for immediate entry into the Euro and the Schengen zone. Our armed forces would have been signed over to the EU last year, probably along with Gibraltar, and our seat on the UN Security Council would be on the cards for surrendering to Brussels too. Be in no doubt, the ongoing dismantling and winding up of the UK state would have been accelerated with a supercharged Whitehall engine powering it. In fact, the EU we would have found ourselves locked into would not have been the EU that most people voted to remain in. And the few lone voices talking about keeping the Leave battle going would have been ruthlessly sidelined by both establishment and press. The only difference would probably be a much stronger UKIP. So, no, there would be no chance of a second referendum. That would have been the end of it. Therefore, we Leavers must ensure that 2016 was the last vote on the matter and not give Remainers the breathing space to even think about organising another one. So as far as I'm concerned, Tony Blair can take his cynical demands of a rethink and second referendum on Brexit and stuff them somewhere unmentionable. Speaking on BBC Radio 4, he said that he entirely accepted the results of the referendum. But he went on to say, "I'm simply saying one very simple thing, which is that in 2016 you knew you wanted to get out of the European Union, but you didn't see the terms of the alternative relationship. If when you see those terms you think it is better to stick with Europe, you are entitled to have that say." The problem, though, is that the European Union of today bears little resemblance to that of just 18 months ago. So we would not be sticking with the old, secretly federalist EU, we would be joining something entirely new, a United States of Europe now openly in the making. Also speaking on Radio 4, Tory Brexiteer Lord Lamont ripped into Tony Blair and said his interview was just an attempt to sabotage the referendum result. "I can think of very few interviews I've heard in my life that are absolutely designed to increase cynicism about politics," he said. This was simply an attempt to sabotage the result of the referendum. It was straight out of the EU school of referendums. Only vote if you already know what the result is going to be. If it's a no, you vote again. If it's a yes, you carry on. This was pure cynicism by him, an attempt to blatantly frustrate the result of the referendum. Lord Lamont also pointed out that Tony Blair was acting against the national interest because his calls for another referendum undermine the UK negotiators and give the EU side the incentive to offer a rubbish deal. As far as I can see, the more ardent the Remoaner, the more anti-UK they are. So them acting against the national interest in favour of the EU is just to be expected. Oh, and just in case you don't think a United States of Europe is on the cards, or you're trying to convince people it isn't while knowing full well that it is, then I point you to the German Chancellor Angela Merkel, who said in her New Year address, "The future of Germany is inseparable with the future of Europe. 27 nations in Europe must be moved to come together as one community. That will be the decisive question of the next year. It will centre around whether we Europeans can uphold our values with solidarity and confidently both inwardly and outwardly in the global and digital world." As far as I'm concerned, that is yet another call for a United States of Europe. At least she didn't say 28 nations, which gets us off the immediate hook. The citizens of the EU may not want an EU superstate, but the politicians they keep on electing do want it, and therefore there is only one way that can pan out in the end. The UK voters need to take a long, hard look at their so-called representatives and ask if these people are really looking after their interests, and then vote accordingly at the next opportunity. What do you think? Please leave a comment below. Thank you. Please do like and share this video, and also subscribe to my channel. And when subscribing, please do remember to press on the little bell next to the subscribe button. That way you'll get an alert every single time I put up a new video. Thank you very much for watching.